Now we are on part 6. Disclaimer. This lesson is for educational purposes only. It is not financial, legal, credit repair, or lending advice. The goal is to help you understand credit basics, credit reports, credit scores, and practical habits that may help you make better decisions. In part 1, we talked about awareness. Part 2, we track where money is going. Part 3, we identified needs, wants, and money leaks. Part 4, we talked about building your first emergency fund. Part 5, we talked about debt. And now in part 6, we are talking about credit. Credit is one of those words people hear all the time, but many people were never actually taught what it means. People are told, you need good credit, check your credit, build your credit, fix your credit, protect your credit. But if no one explains the systems, it can feel confusing, intimidating, or even unfair. So this lesson is about breaking credit down in plain language. What is credit? What is a credit score, credit report? Why does credit matter? What hurts credit? What helps credit? And how do you start rebuilding if your credit has been damaged? The goal is not shame. The goal is understanding, because credit is not your worth. Credit is a financial reputation system. And once you understand the system, you can start making better moves inside it. A low score, you see that? It says you're not stupid, lazy, a bad person. Credit problems can come from missed payments, emergencies, medical bills, job loss, divorce, identity theft, not understanding the system, and survival. I'm a survivor. Well, yeah. Okay, chapter 1. Welcome back to part 6 of this financial literacy series. Today we are talking about credit. Before we explain credit scores, reports, payments, balances, and rebuilding, we need to say something important. Your credit score is not your worth. A low score does not mean you're stupid. A low score does not mean you're lazy. A low score does not mean you're a bad person. Sometimes problems in credit come from missed payments, emergencies, medical bills, job loss, divorce, identity theft. So we are not starting with shame. We're starting with clarity. Credit is a system, and systems can be learned. Chapter 2, what is credit? Credit is the ability to borrow money or use a service now and pay later. When someone gives you credit, they're trusting that you will repay what you owe. That could be a credit card, a car loan, mortgage, student loan, personal loan, phone payment plan, a rental application, utility account. Credit is connected to trust. Lenders, landlords, and some companies use credit history to describe how risky it may be to work with you. Also, some jobs as well. That does not mean the system is perfect, but it does mean your credit history can affect your options. And these are examples in the slide. And it also is a visual. You can pause at your leisure. Chapter 3, credit report versus credit score. Two important terms are credit report and credit score. Your credit report is the detailed history. It may show accounts, balances, payment history, credit limits, collections, inquiries, and public record information. Your credit score is a number created from information in your credit report. Think of it like this. The report is the full story. The score is the summary. If the information on the report changes, the score can change too. That is why checking your credit report matters. You want to know what information is being used to judge your credit. Chapter 4, the three major credit bureaus. In the United States, the three major credit bureaus are Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. These companies collect information about credit accounts and payment history. Not every lender reports to all three bureaus. I've seen accounts I've had in the past where they only reported to TransUnion and they didn't report to the other three. That could be a good or bad thing, because if it's a negative impact, then that means it only impacted one. But if it's a positive impact, it's bad because only one credit agency is reporting it, or is only being reported to one credit agency. And this is one thing that you can do when you're signing up for new accounts in the future, when you're using your credit wisely, is to find out if they're reporting to all three bureaus before you do business with them. Because finding out after you've already signed everything and became a customer in that 30 to 90-day period before it shows up on your credit, and then you see it only impacts one, then you have a mixed match credit score because one is higher because it has more reporting than the other two. That means your credit reports may not all look exactly the same. One bureau may show something another one does not. This is why checking all three reports can be important. You want to know what each report says. Why credit matters. Credit matters because it can affect your financial options. Credit may affect your whether you get approved for a loan, the interest rate you pay, rental applications, car financing, credit card approvals. It may affect deposits for utilities or phone service. I remember when I didn't have any credit and I used to have to pay deposits every time I signed up for phone service. Well, I was young enough to still be old enough when we still had house phones. Yeah, you had to pay a deposit on that. Or I made the mistake of using a pay-as-you-go electric company who was charging crazy rates. They were charging me $200 for a one bedroom. And when I finally switched my credit and got it together and got with an actual company, electricity company that wasn't all of that shebang, my electricity bill was only $40 a month because it was a one bedroom and I didn't use a lot of electricity. In some cases, credit can affect insurance pricing or other financial decisions. The major point is this: credit does not just affect whether you can borrow, it can affect how expensive borrowing becomes. Poor credit can make money cost more. Better credit can give you more options and lower costs. Now, what makes up a credit score? Well, actually, and that's a visual of everything that I'm saying. What makes up a credit score? Different scoring models exist, but many credit scores look at similar types of information. The major factors often include payment history, amounts owed or credit utilization, length of credit history, credit mix, which the mixture of credit would be if you have a car loan, student loan, mortgage, credit card, installment loan. That's the credit mix. New credit or inquiries. Let's put that into plain language. Do you pay on time? How much debt are you carrying compared to your limits? How long have your accounts been open? What types of credit do you have? Have you applied for a lot of new credit recently? The score is trying to predict risk. Again, it is not measuring your value as a person. It is measuring credit behavior and credit history. And see, 35% is your payment history, amounts owed. So like if your credit score dropped due to amounts owed, don't let that discourage you, because simply lowering the amounts that you owe by paying more or paying it down is how you can defeat the 30%. Payment history, that's one you do not want to play with, because it takes a second to kind of get your score back up, because the less credit you have, the harder a late payment will impact you. Credit mix, that's when you have mixed credit. That's really out of your control if you just building credit, because unless you're going through bad credit places that's going to charge you crazy interest rates, if you're a beginner in credit, your credit mix is going to take a while before you're able to mix things up. New credit, have you applied for a lot recently? That's your inquiries. Every time you apply for stuff, it's an inquiry. Some do soft pulls where it's not a full pull, where it could check if you qualify to be with them. But even with that, if you qualify and you end up signing up, that's going to be a hard pull. Payment history, chapter 7. Payment history is one of the most important parts of credit. Lenders want to know, do you pay back what you agreed to pay? Even one late payment can hurt, especially if it is reported as 30 days late or more. That is why due dates matter. This does not mean life is perfect. People fall behind, emergencies happen. But if you're trying to protect or rebuild credit, paying on time is one of the biggest habits to focus on. Simple tools can help. Calendar reminders, auto pay for minimum payments. Only use auto pay if you can afford to, because auto pay remembers when we don't. So we may have auto pay and then we looking at the last $50 and then all of a sudden auto pay snatches it. So be careful with that unless you are in a position to do that. Or if you have an account set aside just for one thing, like if you have an account just for your credit card payments, if you have the money there and you know nothing else is going to take it, then cool. Payment alerts, writing due dates in one place, calling the creditor before you fall behind, if possible. The goal is to stop surprises before they become damage. Also, usually, unless another creditor work differently, in my experience, the late payment doesn't come until 30 days after the due date. So if your due date is the 15th and the 15th of next month, you still have not paid anything, then that's when you get the 30-day late. But if it's the 15th and you pay it on the 20th, it's going to be late in the credit card company system, and they're going to charge you a late fee. But on your credit report, it's not going to show that you were late. But don't quote me on that, unless it could, because these companies have different rules. Some of them might report you soon as you're late. But generally, in my experience, it was always 30 days after the actual due date, and not if you miss the due date by one day, it's going to be late on your credit report. That I've never had that happen to me. If it happens to you, then Chapter 8, credit utilization. Credit utilization means how much of your available credit you're using. For example, if you have a credit card with a $1,000 limit and your balance is $500, your utilization is 50% on that card. If your cards are close to max out, that can hurt your score. Why? Because it may look like financial pressure or higher risk. A general goal many people hear is to keep utilization low. But the deeper lesson is this: a credit limit is not extra income. Just because you can spend up to the limit does not mean that you should. Credit cards should be used as tools, but maxed out cards can become expensive and stressful, especially when those interest rates start piling up and every month you paying the minimum, but then the monthly interest from the balance you have is basically eating up the minimum. Chapter 9, minimum payment and credit cards. Credit cards can be confusing because the minimum payment can make debt feel manageable. The minimum payment may keep you current, but if you only pay the minimum on a high interest balance, it can take a long time to pay off. You pay much more than the original price. That is why credit cards require discipline. That is, the goal is not to just avoid being late. The goal is to understand the full cost. Ask yourself, what is the balance? What is the interest rate? What is the minimum payment? How long will this take to pay off? What did I actually buy? Was it worth the long-term cost? Credit is easier to manage when you treat the balance seriously. And if you already have credit and you're just learning how to use it the right way, again, this is not about shame. This is about recognizing, being aware, and making changes, but making long-lasting changes, not making spur of the moment, you in the spirit of good credit right now, and then maybe you're gonna binge videos for a few days and then you go back to your old ways. This is not that. If you choose to do that, it is your life. You do whatever you want with your life because you have to live with your decisions. I don't, unfortunately, and fortunately. So it is what it is, homeboy. Chapter 10, hard inquiries and new credit. When you apply for certain types of credit, a lender may check your credit. This can create a hard inquiry. A hard inquiry may affect your score for a period of time. That does not mean you should never apply for credit. It means applying should be intentional. Do not apply for every offer just because it is available. Do not chase approvals to feel better. Do not open accounts you do not understand. Before applying, ask, why do I need this? Can I afford the payments? What is the interest rates? Are there fees? How does this fit my plan? Credit should be used with a purpose. And again, if you already happen to have already been using credit and were unaware of how it worked, use your current actions as lessons. Think about everything that you've done, how it happened, so you could prevent it in the future. Because when it comes to us as people, living in a world where people use personas to navigate society, many people lose track of who they really are. So we may think we're one way, but our actions speak to a completely different thing. We may think that we're responsible, but if we look at our actions, it's screaming irresponsibility. And that's where you can clean it up. But if you continue to live on who you believe you are and not acknowledge what you actually are doing, then you end up in this endless cycle. Not to mention, if you're around people who talking about not paying stuff and all of this other stuff, then you get what you pay for. Chapter 11, collections and charge-offs. Collections can happen when a debt goes unpaid and it is sent or sold to a collection agency. A charge-off means the original creditor has written the account off as a loss, but that does not automatically mean you no longer owe it. These items can affect your score. If you see collections or charge-offs on your credit report, do not panic, but do not ignore them either. Read carefully. Check if the information is accurate. Look at dates, look at balances, learn your rights, which those rights can be found on those consumer websites that will be in the description. And I did a visual tour of those websites on the first video for time purposes for these videos, trying to keep them around the 30-minute ballpark. Won't happen again unless you request it. But yeah, maybe in a future video, but not this section, because this is for beginners. We trying to move forward and not, be redundant or repetitive. Read carefully. If you are unsure, consider nonprofit credit counseling or legal aid services in the description. The goal is to respond with information, not fear. Errors on credit reports. Credit reports can have errors, wrong balances, accounts that are not yours, incorrect late payments. I once had a house on mine for somebody in Texas, and yeah, that was a bit strange. Duplicate accounts, wrong personal information, old information that should not be there. That is why you're checking your report matters. If something is inaccurate, you can dispute it with the credit bureau. This process requires patience and documentation. Do not assume every negative item is correct, especially if you like the people I grew up around where your mama have a Sprint bill, rest in peace to Sprint, or an AT&T bill in a 3-year-old baby name. And do not assume every credit repair company can magically fix your credit. Accurate negative information may remain for a period of time, but inaccurate information can be challenged. Also, too, when it comes to the negative, if the negative makes you have a low score, that means you must have minimal history, and the little history you have is bad. If you find things like secure credit cards and those different websites, like I can't even remember the name of it, but different ones where you can pay yourself and it comes up as a payment, you can fight having a low credit score. You can slowly build it up over time. And then as years go on and your positive history keeps showing, your score is going to gradually become stronger to where if you do overuse your credit cards, instead of it dropping to a 400 or 500, maybe it might drop to the high 500s or a low 600. And then whenever your balances drop again, you'll be back in the 700s. Be careful with, the scams, most important part. When people are stressed about credit, scammers know it. Be careful with companies that promise guaranteed credit score increases, instant deletions, a new credit identity, a clean credit file, results overnight, or anyone asking you to lie or use fake information. Real credit building usually takes time, consistency, and accurate information. You can dispute errors yourself. You can learn the system. You can get help from trusted nonprofit sources, but be careful with pressure, promises, and upfront fees. Desperation can make people vulnerable. Financial literacy protects you from being manipulated. And if you're around a lot of people with bad credit, do not tell them what you're doing. If you choose to do so, that's on you. And you're going to remember, I told you, don't do it, because what's going to happen, people are going to start trying to get you to sign up for stuff. It happens all of the time. When the one bird that fly away, the rest of the birds try to give it all kind of things and errands to do. Like, be careful with that, because just like you're watching these types of videos and trying to learn, they can be doing that too. You do not owe them anything unless they're mentally disabled and you're their caregiver. If you're not, then no. Chapter 14, how to start rebuilding credit. Rebuilding credit starts with a few basic steps. First, check your credit reports. Second, dispute inaccurate information. Third, pay current bills on time. Fourth, reduce balances where possible. Fifth, avoid new unnecessary debt. But that's what discipline got to be built in, because if you don't have discipline, you're going to find a way to make everything feel necessary. 6, keep accounts organized. 7, build positive history slowly. And not to mention, don't become obsessed with your credit score, because it's going to twerk a little bit in the beginning. It's adjusting. And if you have a credit card, pick your credit cards wisely, because when you have limited credit, your credit history, which is one of those scores we showed earlier in this video, when you close a card that's your oldest account, your account age drops. And that is why when people close accounts, their credit score drops. It's not because it's a negative thing. It's because you're losing years on your credit age. For some people, a secure card may be an option. A secure card usually requires a cash deposit and can help build payment history if used responsibly and reported to the credit bureaus. But it is not magic. You still have to pay on time and keep the balance low. The rebuilding process is about proving consistency. It does. And if you have no credit or bad credit, getting a secure card after 6 months, you see a difference. But what's going to end up happening is you're going to start getting offer letters from all kinds of places. You're going to be stalked. Even me now, to this day, I get stuff to PO boxes, addresses, old addresses, new addresses, places I ain't never been before, with mail waiting for me. Oh, you can get this, you can get that. None of that stuff even look good to me anymore. But that's a part of the discipline. That's why this channel is focused on psychology and philosophy, because pretty much anything we do in life has a connection to it. Chapter 15, credit and emotional pressure. One of the biggest dangers is using credit to perform a lifestyle. Social media makes people feel behind. It makes people feel like they need the outfit, the trip, the dinner, the phone, the image, the upgrade. But using credit to look successful can quietly create stress. You may impress people for a moment while creating payments that follow you for months or years. Remember, credit should report your stability. It should not fund insecurity. If you cannot afford it without harming your needs, savings, bills, or future, pause. You do not have to prove your worth with borrowed money. Unless these people you trying to impress is going to get you a six-figure job or get you something to change your life, you don't need to impress anyone, because people who need to be impressed is not going to be in your lifelong. And if they were in your lifelong, y'all are miserable with each other, because there's no true bond there. There's no true care and concern, because a person who really cares about your well-being is not going to make you perform just to be around them. And I get that it's a popular thing because many of our parents never matured enough to understand a lot of these things. A lot of us were raised by immature people, and a lot of society is immature, keeping the cycle going, and unaware and emotional and things like that. So once you start becoming aware, you have power. Now, if you choose to use your power for dark, that's between you and Batman. For me, I don't care what you do. I just will hope that you learn more to see how easy life can be when you're aware, especially in a world of unawareness. That could be your advantage, because once you become aware, you're going to see how many people took advantage of you. You may have already felt it, but they gaslit you and made you feel like you were overthinking or you were tripping, which they always do. Chapter 16, this week's action plan. Here is your action plan for this week, and adjust at your own will. You don't have to do this. This is just a blueprint. Step 1, get your free credit report. Step 2, review your personal information. Step 3, review all accounts listed. Step 4, circle anything you do not recognize. Step 5, write down balances, late payments, collections, and inquiries. Really, I mean, if you're getting your credit report, you already have that written down, so that would be a bit redundant unless you're trying to do like a notebook thing. Like some people find they achieve their goals better through getting a notebook and writing stuff down, even in a digital world, and it may help. Step 6, dispute inaccurate information, which if you're pulling your credit report on the internet, you can dispute it on the website you're using. Step 7, choose one habit to protect your credit this month. That could be setting up payment reminders, paying one bill on time, reducing one credit card balance, avoiding a new credit application, or learning more about credit from trusted sources. Do not try to fix everything overnight. Start with clarity. And credit is not your worth. It is a system. It is your history, a summary. It can affect access, costs, create opportunities, also create pressure if you do not understand it. The goal is not to fear credit. It is to respect it. Use it with purpose, protect it, rebuild it with patience. And remember, you are not a number. You are not your past mistakes unless you keep repeating them. You are not stuck because your credit is damaged today unless you leave it stuck. But you do need awareness. You do need a plan. You do need consistency. So this week, check your reports. Look at the truth without shame. Learn the system and start protecting your future one habit at a time. And again, evaluate your environment. What causes you to spend? Are you a music fan? Do you spend money every time your favorite artist drops something? Are you someone who if you a music fan, are you in the stand groups where the people force you to do stuff? Are you the Terry from Soul Food of the family, where every time people need, you're the one to do it? Are you wasting extra gas on giving people rides who don't give you gas money to keep the peace? Are you paying for food or paying people way? Or are you going out to restaurants with people who want to split $400 bills and making everybody pay $50 when you only had a water? Keep those things in mind, because this is a part of your journey and a part of your life. And if you look at your future should be one where you have people that appreciate you, where you appreciate yourself first, because if you don't appreciate yourself first, you can't expect people to do what you don't do. When you don't have stuff in yourself, self-love, self-respect, self-preservation, you're going to naturally gravitate towards people who don't have that in themselves, and they're going to take advantage of you for that. They might not intentionally do it. A lot of people actually live unconscious. As bad as we want some people to have plotted everything they did, most of these people are not that smart. It's just situational. When a person builds a habit of depending on the person, then their brain automatically associates that person with that. That's why people can skip over all their family members and ask you to borrow money. Exactly. That's it for this video, and another one is coming soon. But I'm a drop again today, but it's gonna be the regular series, the 1 hour plus videos if you're into that. Thank y'all, and good luck on your journey. And remember everything I said. You don't have to use it though; it's up to you. It's your life.